How do you live a life undeterred? And more than that, how do you have those difficult conversations with people when it comes to living out your biggest dreams? Stick around. We are going to talk to D. Greene of Undeterred, and he's going to unfold some really powerful stuff for us. But before we do that, I am Traci Poe, founder of Communicate Great and host of the Communicate Great podcast. So thanks for being here. We are about helping people level up their communication, whether it's for their personal life or for their professional life. Okay, let's get to D. I have my newish friend, D, with us today, and I am so excited. D has just this energy about him that I absolutely love. And so he and we met through a group we're both part of, right?
Yeah, I believe so, on Facebook.
Okay, yes. And so he reached out and we've kind of chatted back and forth. And so I love what he does. He is a fellow Christian. And so I support him and I love his thoughts, his energy, his everything. So D, before we get into our communication tips, can you share with the audience who you are, what you do, how you got there? Just kind of let us know who you are.
I guess like the long story short is I'm originally from Indiana. So I was born in Indiana, small city, Kokomo. My mom was pregnant with me when she was 15. Her birthday is in December, mine's in January, so she was only like 16 for like a month when she had me. Never met my dad. So kind of like growing up, there wasn't like huge expectations, you know what I mean? It wasn't like everyone was saying I was never going to be anything, but people weren't really doing a lot of stuff. I wasn't around like millionaires or famous people or celebrities or anything like that. And I think over time, I got tired of two things. I got tired of seeing like successful rappers, athletes, movie stars, celebrities, whoever. Like every time they achieve something really amazing, they're always like, I did it, you can do it too. And I'm like, but I'm not though. And then I got tired of being at church and everyone is talking about if you have the faith of a mustard seed and through Christ I can do all things who strengthen me. But I'm like, but you're just going to work, coming home, eating dinner, going to sleep, and doing that every day, every week, 5 days at a place you don't like. You're unfulfilled. You're depressed. So it's like, how do you know that those things are true? Like you're just saying them. You don't really know that they're true. You're saying them. It feels good. So I was like, I want to know what it feels like to like, can I do all things through Christ who strengthens me? What would my life look like if I actually had faith, if I was actually moving out there? And I want to know what it feels like to be like, I wanted to do something. I actually achieved it, and me be able to say like, I did that too. So I guess we could go into this later, but basically I had this dream eventually of building like an online business that allowed for me to like travel like the world. And my goal was to just be able to travel once every 3 months. This was like in 2020. Well, it kind of started in 2018. Then in 2020, I was like, I need to take it serious. And then it was like one of the hardest things I ever did. I was thinking about this yesterday. I was like, man, there was one day that I was actually in this Christian group. It's like a Christian social media group, and I was giving tips in there, and all my stuff would get like hundreds of comments, like all of these views. And then there's a couple people that got jealous and reached out to the admins, and then the admins told me like, hey, like some people are complaining because when you post, like your stuff gets so much engagement that other people. That is like very weird. I'm like, yo, we're all supposed to be believers, and they're
Right.
so then they wouldn't answer my questions, and it was just very frustrating. And I felt like God's calling me to do something, but there's always some roadblock. And I remember it was at like I remember I just threw my phone down and shattered it, and I like punched a hole in the wall, and I like broke the shower curtain, and I just left the house. And it was at like I don't know 10 or 11 at night. And I was like, I don't even care if like a car hits me or anything. Like I was like so frustrated at that time because I just felt like I'm trying to do something that I really want to achieve, but no matter how hard I'm working, it's just not going anywhere. And I knew like if I give up, I'm never going to achieve that dream. I'm never going to be able to find out like if God is actually going to provide, and if I do. I kept pushing. By the end of 2020, we had built a 6-figure like business. We were doing 10K, 20K, 30K. In 2021, instead of traveling once every 3 months, me and my wife and our daughter were like, why don't we just sell all of our stuff and move to Mexico, see how we like it. We kept some stuff in storage. after the first month, my wife was like, "Let's extend one more month," and then one month turned into two, and then three, and then four, and then now we've been traveling. Like I think I've only been back in the U.S. maybe like 3 or 4 months. Like it's like the complete reverse since
Wow.
the past 3 years. Um, and so what we're talking about is I realized that um, I think as believers, but as people in general, there's so much how to knowledge out there. Like we live in a world where you got Chat GPT, you got YouTube, you got books, you got Kindle, you got podcasts, you got all this stuff.
Mhm.
I realize that it's not the lack of knowledge that holds people back, because you could just go into Chat GPT and just type it in whatever you want to do.
Right.
And why are people not, your ideal weight, your ideal financial status, like all these things? And I was like, it's really fear and doubt that holds a lot of people back. Either they're doubting that they're like me and they're in that moment and they just say, you know what, this is never going to work, and they just give up. Or they're afraid to keep pushing, reaching out to people, increase their prices, communicate with people, have hard conversations, whatever it is.
Mhm.
So like that's what I have a passion for helping people with now.
I love that. So you said a couple of interesting things, and I'm trying to remember back. I was like, remember that, remember that. I will remember it at a certain point. But I really liked a lot of what you said. Yes, there is so much out there that we can just have. And I part of what I do is coaching, depending on what it is. Part of what I do is facilitating, teaching. I am a disseminator of information as well. But one of the things that I've noticed, and it kind of goes to your point with the fear and the doubt, it's just that implementation.
Yeah,
So I can see a checklist of all the things that I need to do, for instance, to start a podcast, right?
yeah,
But then there's that fear and doubt that could be in there going, oh, but what if I miss something? What if I don't do that step right? What if, what if, what if? And so that's where people like you come in, people like me, where we are the ones who kind of help hold the hand through the implementation and answer those questions. So I 100% agree. You can Google and YouTube and Chat GPT and read a book, read a blog, podcast, all the things. So, but it's people like you who walk alongside people starting a business and say, and you get in that ear and you're like, yes, you can. And so, and it's funny because I don't know if you know this. When I first started my business, I quickly realized that women in business had to support women in business. And so I started this, oh, yes, I can women in business events. And so, again, for Communicate Great, it's whether it's for your personal or your professional life, I help you with deeper connections through communication skills. And so, oh, yes, I can, it's women connecting with women. And so I get that we have to do that. We have to be there for other people and we have to tell them, yes, you can do this. And I have a whole story about when I was teaching public speaking in college and I would have students. And I, by the way, am a massive introvert. I don't know if I ever shared that with you, but public speaking still to this day makes me pretty nervous, but I taught it for 10 years. And so my students who didn't want to do it, I was there with them and I'm like, yes, you can do this. And I'm going to do this with you. And so you are that for people. You are yes, you can do this. Let's take a look at those fears, those doubts. Let's handle them. So because we are Communicate Great and we are about giving our audience tips on leveling up their communication, why don't you just give us some tips on what if you're working with somebody and you can just sense that break, right? Like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. What are some of the things that you share with people that you work with? Give us some ideas on how you communicate with that fearful person.
how I communicate with them, or what things I tell that person to do in order to take action.
Whichever you want to do, whichever you want to do, because either way it's communicating, right? And so I'm not asking you to give those, deep dark secrets, but just how do you handle somebody in terms of communicating with them, um, who just really is, I don't know if I can do this. I have this big dream, but I don't know.
That's
I
actually
don't
that's
know if I
a
can do
good
it.
question, because I think the way I want to answer, I know how I want to answer that now.
Okay.
because of a conversation that I just had. I think
Okay.
like Christians and I think as coaches that really care, and maybe this saying it like this will help the other business owners out there. For me, like I really just love like helping people, pouring into them, and I love when people are just have like a really good experience with me. Like, man, D really helped me out. But I think like you can't always be like that, unfortunately. I think sometimes, and we live in a world where I was even laughing when you're like, I help women because like I've been living outside of the United States for 3 years. And it's like, I always see these videos now where it's like, you can't even say man or woman because people act like they don't know what those words even mean anymore. Everyone gets triggered all the time about everything. So
Right.
I think we live in a world where it's like people want to play the victim. They want to be triggered. They want to be
Yes.
stuck in their excuses. And sometimes you have to really, I think, be blunt with people. Like there's a lot of times where I like to be like, hey, you can do this. Like, how can we work this out? But for example, there is a lady that had been wanting to work with me, but she didn't have the funds. So I'm like, hey, how can I help you in other ways? Here's this YouTube video. Here's this, blah, blah, blah. And just wasn't getting the money. We're talking like months and months, right? Or a few months. So then I'm like, hey, how would you like free access to the thing, right? I'll just give you free access. You can get in there, check,
Wow.
help you out. So I have a landing page that explains everything. There's a video. You watch the video, goes into it. There's a link to set everything up. There's all the stuff. And she got upset. She messaged me and she's like, I don't like the fact that when I go to your page, it's only giving me free access for a week. And you said it was free. I'm like, I never said it was going to be free forever. And when you go to the page, it clearly says free for a week. And I'm like, in my mind, it's like if you get in there and you need more time, you could just asked me and I could have extended it. You don't have to even put a credit card pay or a payment method in there. And I said, do you feel like the mindset that you have right now is helping you grow? Is this mindset going to help you achieve your dreams of somebody giving you something for free, even if it's a day or 20 or 2 hours or whatever
Right.
it is? And instead of taking advantage and saying, this is the opportunity God gives me now, you're looking at it and saying, I don't like the way you worded it. I don't like that it's 7 days. I don't like that it's a limit, blah, 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 coming across entitled. And then when you say something like that, people don't have anything to say. She said F you basically and just blocked me. And I think
Wow.
the reason why I share that is I think as believers and as entrepreneurs, it's you can feel bad for being honest with people like that. Sometimes I feel like that. I'm like, oh man, I shouldn't be honest with them like that. But I think that's just how it is. And some people aren't gonna like that. But I think there's been people that are in our program. For example, yesterday we had one of our like calls that we do. People come on, they say what they're afraid to take action on, and we help them. I'm usually like the I'm usually like a really chill guy. Like somebody could probably spit on me in the streets, and I would just be like, "This guy's having a bad day," so I'm not gonna do anything. What it is, like my wife is always like, "You're so chill." So this guy was saying that he wanted to buy an RV in order to be able to spread the gospel. Like he was like he's an entrepreneur, but he's like, I want to have an RV that way I can like also like preach the gospel in these different cities. Um, but the basically it was going to be like $10,000 or something like that for to do everything, do the certification. But he was like, the army is gonna, I think it's the army, but some type of service is gonna pay for that. So then people are like, okay, so what's holding you back? He's like, well, it's like really hot here in Texas, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and do the certification in January. And one of our members said, how many lost souls will there be over this time if you don't do this? How many people might die in that time period that could have been got brought to Christ that God's calling you to do, but you can do it, but you're making up stupid excuses. You're finding anything to do. And
Right.
he was like, I needed that. Like I needed to hear that. And
Yes.
what we have to, I think like our like we have to have the fruit. I think that's the main thing. Like you have to have the fruit in your life to back it up and say, I'm the type of person that wants to help people. Like you can look and see like what I do. Like I have a podcast, I have a YouTube, I help these people. These are my clients. So you can't say I'm not ever trying to help anybody, but you also can't just because you get triggered doesn't mean that I'm not a nice person. If you're
Right.
making up BS excuses and I call you out on it, you can't try to flip that on me and say, "Oh, I don't like that fact that you're being rude." It's like it's not being rude. It's is this mindset going to help you achieve your dreams? You don't like that I called you out on it because it makes you uncomfortable. I think we live in a world now where everybody has to feel comfortable. Everybody can say they're a man, they're a woman, they're a dog, they're the president, they're rich, and you just have to go along with it and pretend. And if you question it, you're a bigot, you're a racist, you're all these things, and it's like, what? This is not the reality that we live in, and everybody has to get
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
participation trophy now. And I
Yes.
we're doing people a big disservice. I don't think we should yell at people and we should say,
Mm-mm.
I'm not the type of person that's like, you're never going to achieve your dreams. This is why you're a loser. This is why you suck. But to challenge people, to question people, to ask the hard questions. I think even me and my wife, like I know that when she asks me those questions, she's not asking me to make me feel bad. She's asking me because she really wants me to grow. And she knows that not asking me those things won't help me. She'll tell me,
Yes.
did you handle that situation properly? Do you feel like that is that how God was calling you to handle that, to that person like that? And at first, like it's like you get upset because it's like, oh, I want this person to be on my side, but it's like that's not a relationship's not about being on each other's side. It's about helping each other grow and do the right thing. So
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
that the coach and as business owners, it's like yes, the customer is always right in facts of giving them a service, but I think if we're helping someone achieve a goal, if it's like I'm a fitness coach and you're not achieving your goals because you want to hit the snooze 5 times, and I say, hey, do you think you're going to lose your weight, lose the weight you're trying to lose if you don't actually get up and you're just eating chips every day? Some people are going to get upset about that, but I think that's just how it is. So I think there's that balance of loving on people, but even Jesus, the things he was telling people is kind of wild when you think about it. Like he was very bold and like this is how I have to say it. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, the Bible talks about iron sharpens iron. It's there for a reason, right? And that's what he calls us to do is not just gloss over things. And in the past, I had done relationship coaching, and conflict was a big part of that. And so we would talk about in love, in love, in love, confronting, but in love. And what does that look like? And yeah, it's not blaming or judging or yelling or name calling or all the things. It is having a frank conversation, but in a loving and gentle way. And, I did have a woman that I was coaching individually, and she didn't like what I had to say because I did the same thing. I questioned her.
yeah,
And so she stopped using me, and it's like, okay, yeah, okay, see ya. But I think people want help, but they don't want to hear the truth often. Now
yeah,
you have those clients that I've got one right now I'm working with her on public speaking, and she listens to every piece of advice I give her. Now sometimes she will take what I say and make it her own, and that's okay, but it's not, let me give you advice and you're going to argue back with me. Let
yeah.
me give you advice and then you're going to like, this is what I do. I know what I'm doing. And so I hear what you're saying because, yeah, what happened to iron sharpens iron. We aren't allowed. And I was actually just right before we were recording this, I was meeting with a friend, and we were talking about reality. And it's your reality and my reality,
Yeah.
but there's one reality. And so yeah, well, I want to be a cat, and I hope I don't get hate whatever, but you know anyhow, we're just gonna keep on going. But I hear what you're saying because and maybe I need to start really investigating people. And it's like, can you handle iron sharpens iron? Can you handle me saying, oh, you need to consider this? But
And
anyhow,
I think like
that's a whole
the
other
thing,
thing.
the thing I would say too is like I think sometimes we can make everything a tactic. So I
Yes.
say this is the way I handled a situation, and people go, "Oh, that's how you handle it." And then things start to becoming like, "Oh, this is the tactic. This is the way to do it." And I think you have to know like the foundation of like, okay, we're being honest with people, but as an individual, you got to know how you communicate that. So not
Yes.
everybody
Yes.
is a yelling strong person. I'm going to tell someone it, but I'm not going to do it in a strong. I'm not going to be David Goggins and be like, "You got to get up at the blah blah." Like I don't do like that. So I think we also have to realize like how like we communicate with people individually, and that looks different to
Absolutely.
everybody. That way, you're not just like oh, this person yells at people and they are doing this and now I'm going to do it. It's like, do it in your own way, but figure out like what that looks like. And then some people, it's like, maybe you don't have to do that. Maybe that's not your style. So I think that's
Right.
important too.
Yes, for sure, for sure. Okay. So that was that question on, how do you communicate with somebody who's kind of digging in and like just set in that fear or in that doubt. So you and I were talking before we started recording about sometimes you have to have conversations with spouses or significant others when you're wanting to pursue your dream that if you're a Christian, God has placed in you, or if you're a non-Christian, just that you've been dreaming about and that you feel compelled to do. So, how would you have those conversations? What recommendations would you give when somebody is thinking, I really want to go for this? I want to go for this big dream that I have of starting this business or taking the business that I have, but to another level. So, give us some tips on communicating with those significant others in those moments where you want to start or elevate what you're doing in a business.
Yeah, I think the thing I'll say first that I feel like a lot of people probably don't touch on is my I don't know if loyalty is the right word, but let's say if we're going to use that word is with God. My wife knows that, and I know that for her. So what I don't want to happen, and what I see people doing, is they're on Earth. They're trying to please their mom. They're trying to please their wife. They're trying to please everybody else. God is calling them to do something. These people don't agree. They don't do it, and it's like you can't be Noah and tell God, "I didn't build the ark because my wife didn't agree." You still
Right.
need to communicate with her, which I talked about. You still need to try to get her on board. But ultimately, if it's something that God's calling you to do, you have to do it. And I think you
Mm.
don't want to get to heaven and then be having to communicate with God about all these reasons why you didn't do what He's calling you to do. Now, the thing that makes it easier, I think, as believers, is the people around you have to see that you're actually going to take action on those things. That when you're saying God is calling me to do something, it's not like, oh, God told me to build the ark, but yet you're not actually doing that. You're not actually faithful. And last time you said you were going to do something, you didn't do it and you didn't come to.
Ah,
So I think
yes.
it's about like, I think you have to give your spouse a reason to trust you, to believe you. I think a lot of people are just these days like, accept me as I am. Everyone, women, it says in the Bible, you should serve your man, and women are like, you should lead. And it's like, you have to, I think, really give a good reason, like why they should be like, hey, this is the business I want to start. My wife knows, like, if like before I've like, hey, I need to risk like 10K right now, but she knows if I do that, like, I'm probably not gonna be sleeping a lot of time because I'm gonna be working hard. She knows I'm not just gonna be going to the beach and relaxing. But I think the first thing is like, this is kind of what we were talking about, is being able to I think when it comes to spouses, articulate what it is that how it will make a difference in your life. And I think a lot of people haven't like they're not maybe as specific about that. So it's like you're talking too much about the thing, like, oh, I want to invest in a coach, or I want to move to this city, or I want to do this thing. And it's like you got to be able to go deeper than that. So it's not like, hey, honey, we should be digital nomads, because she's not going to want to do that. It's like, hey, how cool would it be if we had the freedom to do whatever we wanted to do, or wake up in the morning, you could go get a coffee, you could go do these things. So I think, but one thing that me and my wife have tried to do is it's always like a conversation. So even if it's something that I kind of already know what I want to do, I always try to throw in like, what do you think about that? Or like, is there any reason
Hmm.
why we shouldn't do that, or what? And I think that's a big thing too. Is like, just I think especially as like a man, it's like, even if you're gonna do whatever you want, like let like both of you guys should be a part of the decision. And I feel like, especially when women just feel like, hey, you're just gonna be the dictator and just be the king and do whatever you want. Like, what's the point of you even asking me? You're gonna do whatever it is that you want. It's hard to trust, but when it's like you're making a group decision and then you're being the leader to make sure that you're getting those things done, I
Mm.
think that it plays a big role. And I think as a woman, it's like you're coming to the man and you're asking like, hey, can you lead me in this? I need help with this. I want you to partner with me in this. I think that's how you get more things done. And the thing you got to do before you do all of those things is make sure you're picking the type of people to date or to marry that actually supports you. Because if you're just with someone that's never going to let you do anything and they don't ever trust you and believe in you, if you're dating that person, then maybe you should not. Now, if you're already married, then it's like you got to try to fix that. Um,
Right.
but I think what we always try to do is just be honest. Like, with this is really like what I actually want to do. And another thing that we try to do with each other that is a challenge, but it's the truth is like you're not responsible for the other person's like reaction. You know what I mean? So um, I think there's times where it's like this is what God's calling me to do, or this is what we want to do. Like you're only responsible for the way that you I think sometimes are presenting the information, and not just if this person gets angry or whatever it is. Um, if that kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I love it. And I when I very first started Communicate Great, it's been a little less than 2 years. And I went ahead and I signed up with a coach. And at one point, because coaches always offer different price points, products at different price points. And so I did one of the lower ones, and she was trying to get me to go to, of course, one of the high ticket ones. And at the time I basically said, you know what, my husband is not comfortable with this. And her response was basically, screw him, you do you, kind of a thing. And I just couldn't get there, just because we are supposed to be one and we're supposed to work together. And so you do have those people, coaches, who basically tell people, oh, forget what your spouse
I'll
thinks or
say,
your
yeah.
significant. Yeah. And so I love that you talked about how you get the thoughts,
And
what do
this,
you
this,
think?
this is something that I'll add in because this is something that drives me crazy. Is when people will like let's use the same example you use, right? People want to invest in something to change their life, whether that's fitness or social media or business or whatever. So they're like, I need this thing. And buying an apartment, whatever. This is something I want to do in my life. I know it's going to take money. I'm getting on the call. They're asking me for money, and they say, I don't want to move forward because me and my spouse always talk about everything. So my next question
Yes.
is always, okay, if you guys always talk about everything, what do they think about it?
Mm-hmm.
And then people say, "Oh, I haven't talked to them yet." So it's like you're lying. Don't use your spouse as a reason not to take action, because that's what I mean. If you're saying that you always talk about everything, then always talk about everything. Don't,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'm gonna research this person on YouTube by myself. I'm gonna look at this apartment by myself. I'm gonna get on this sales call without telling you by myself. But then when it's time to take action, now I want to speak. And I think the thing that me and my wife have always tried to do is like we're always in communication. Like we know like the goals that we have. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the times, if she comes to me about something, there is rarely that I say no, because I'm like, we've either talked about it already. I know that you've done the research, and I know if you're asking me, you've probably already prayed about it. You know that's something you need to do. But I think
Mm.
what I see a lot of couples doing is they're using God and their spouse as a reason not to take action.
It's an excuse.
Yeah, I hate that. It's
Sure.
like
Yeah.
if you really need to talk to them, that's fine. But don't be like, because it's like, all right, let me mute my camera. I'm gonna go get a drink real quick. You guys talk. It's like, oh no, we need like a couple. It's like you don't need a couple of days. Like you should know what goals you're trying to reach. You should know what God's calling you to do. You know how much it is. It's simple math. Do you have the money in your bank account? If you don't, then you can't get it. If you do, how much would you leave left? Are you comfortable with the amount left? And then when people are saying like, oh, I need to pray about it, it's like, okay, well, I'll mute my camera. Like, how many minutes do you need to pray? Like, you don't need 2, 3 days to pray about stuff. And it's like, well,
Mm.
God doesn't always answer your prayer right away. I'm like, if He doesn't, then it's a no, right? If you're like, did I
Mm.
marry this person and God didn't give you the yes, then that means He's not giving you the yes. So then you just tell them, hey, I'm not going to do this right now. So that's
Mm.
where I think the communication in terms of like you should be constantly communicating, not just like
Mm-hmm.
at the very last minute when it's time to do something and now it's time to take action and now you're scrambling. And that, I think that's why a lot of people miss out. I forget what book,
Mm.
but they talked about how opportunities almost always get worse. They almost never get better. So like
Mm.
if you see something and it's a deal, if you wait, you normally come back, it's more expensive. If you see a nice apartment and you don't get it right then, you usually come back, it's like already booked. You want to date
Already taken.
somebody, you're not talking to them for years, you come back, they're already married, they already got kids. Like, waiting is not really that much of a benefit like people think. That's why I think we should always be communicating with our spouses, other people, about what we want to do, how much money we have, what would happen if we get in a situation, how much money we're willing to spend, how much money we'd be willing to invest, what would happen if we didn't have enough money. That's what I'm saying. When people say like they're always talking to their spouse, I'm like, if you didn't talk to your spouse prior to this conversation, then that's a lie. So
Right. Right. So now just to make sure that I'm understanding and our audience is understanding. So basically what you're saying is, let's say I'm in business and I think, okay, I need to level up this part of my business, but I don't know how. I think I need to go hire somebody to help me with that. So then you're saying, I'm going to have a conversation with my husband and say, hey, in my business, this is an area that I'm lacking in. I want to go hire some help. That conversation needs to happen before I go do my research and find the help. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, I think it's a little sometimes different when it's something maybe you're doing inside of your business, maybe like hiring someone, because you could talk to that person and be like, hey, I need to talk. But I think in general, a lot of this stuff, like before you're gonna, like if you're gonna interview someone, you know that you're gonna hire them. That's the whole point of talking to them. If you're gonna go
Mm-hmm.
look at an apartment, you know the purpose of you looking is to buy it. If you're gonna get on a sales call, you're not there to get information. Information doesn't do anything. So I just, to me and my wife can never really understand when people like you go all the way to where it's time to take action and you're like, oh, well, I always make decisions with my spouse. I always pray about everything. And it's like, okay, so when you prayed about it, what did God tell you? When you talked to your spouse, what did
Right.
God tell you? And people are like, oh, I haven't talked to them yet. I didn't, it's like, that to me doesn't make any sense. It's like,
Mm.
literally giving you the thing that you're wanting to that will change your life, but you're waiting until he presents it to you to pray and communicate about it. Like, like if you're
Did
saying that you
yeah.
need a car, you should be talking to your spouse about like what type of car you have, what type of budget you have. That way, if somebody presents you with one, you know if you can take it or not.
Right. So have you heard the story, and it's it's a an analogy, metaphor, whatever you want to call it, parable, whatever, about the person who was there was a flood and he was in the tree just barely hanging on and the water kept getting higher and he was praying, Lord, save me. Have you heard this one?
Is it like where like God keeps sending like different things and he's like, oh, I was waiting for
And so, yeah, and so he's like, God save me. And then he sends a boat through or
yeah
something like, hey, jump in. No, 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 it's okay. God's going to save me. And then they go off. And then a helicopter comes and it's like, hey, grab the rope. No, 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 God's going to save me. And they go off. And then he dies and he's in heaven. And he's like, Lord, why didn't you save me? He was like, I kept sending people to save you. So that when you were talking about that, like you've done the research and you're wanting to make the thing. And then you get to that point where it's like time to make that decision, then you're like, no, 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 I don't want to take that now. I've been looking for it, I've been praying for it,
yeah
and now it's here. No, 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 I don't want it. I don't want that. I don't want to grab that rope. I don't want to jump in a boat. So that reminded me of that.
yeah. I think it's just like not just talking to God and your spouse at the very last minute. You know what I mean? At the very last second. It's like, I think if you're going to say that you always talk to someone or you always pray, then that means always, not just,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? So I think what me and my wife have tried to do is like talking, all the time about like what we're trying to do and our goals,
Yeah.
actions. And like, so then that doesn't mean that there's not times where I come across something. I'm not always doing it right then. Like I might say, hey, let me go talk to them. But I think a lot of the times, like I said, I know that opportunities get worse a lot of times. So if
Mm-hmm.
there's sometimes where I'm going to come across something that I've been praying for that I know that I want, that this thing could be gone tomorrow or in 2 days or in a week. But I
Yeah.
know that a lot of people, they're on this path of trying to achieve something, grow their business, hire somebody, fitness, whatever it is. God presents them with the right people at the right time. And because they didn't have the communication prior, now they miss out. And they blame everyone else. Oh, I don't have money. It's not the right time. The government, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Like, if you were talking and having communication, you would know that you could do that. And if your guys' communication skills are good, even if you had to do that without talking to them, you know that you would have that communication after that to go ahead and move, to
Mm-hmm.
move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just, you know, giving your spouse like the heads up of the things that you're wanting to do, like
Right,
not just
right. Just
trying to do it.
along the way,
Yeah,
at
along
the
the way.
beginning, during the way,
Yeah,
just, through the decision making part. So I agree. I agree that we do need to be communicating along the way. And if you can't communicate with your spouse or your significant other, then there's a whole other situation that needs to be
right.
dealt with, right? So, okay. All right. I love it. Thank you so much. Is there anything else though before we close out? Are there any other tips that you want to share? Anything you want to share with the audience? Go for it.
Yeah, like I told you, I always say the same thing on every podcast at the end, which is, to me, the purpose of a podcast is not to listen, nod your head, and be like, "Oh, I needed that." People do that in church. They do that in a podcast. They do that with like nodding your head and saying, "I needed this," dropping a comp. That doesn't change your life. That makes us feel good, but it doesn't do anything for you. So you can't just be the person that, we're almost on here 40 minutes. You can't be the person that spends 40 minutes of your life that you're never going to get back, get some information, nod your head, and then just live the rest of your life as if you never listened to it.
Right.
It's foolish to do that. You might as well go do something else than wasting your time. So
Right.
you got to take the information that you listen to, yes, nod your head, but then you got to go apply it. So if you listen to this,
Mm-hmm.
but now your conversations don't improve with your spouse, with the other people around you, then why did you just spend 40 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is? So that doesn't mean that you're going to be an expert now on conversations or communications, but do something, and also do something now. Like, as soon as this gets over, go do something. It could be as simple as putting in your
Take
Apple
action.
Notes, talk to my wife more about this, or let's have a date night or whatever. Like, there's something you could do, even if it's going on YouTube and saying how to talk to my husband better and marking that video as save later. Like, do something right now that is going to improve the reason why you listen to this podcast. And I think if you do that every day, every time you come across information, your life is going to get better. But if you just are a listener and a head nodder, like that's not gonna change your life.
I love it. Okay. I just so appreciate you coming on. I knew that when I asked you on, it was going to be good stuff just because of you, who you are, and the way you think, and the way you were just plugged into God. So thank you so, so much for coming on. And everybody, we are going to put Dee's information in the description. So go check him out. He truly is something special. So everybody, we will see you next time and talk to you later. Bye.